Hi, welcome to PHP and MySQL video. This is a list of suggestions on how to use this video. The notes for this video can be found at this URL, which is loaded here. And we are doing Ajax. So we finished most of the PHP and MySQL stuff. We just conclude the MVC patterns. So we are going into Ajax. Okay, what is Ajax? Ajax stands for Asynchronous JavaScript XML. It's a pretty old technology. Okay, it was developed in 1999, so it has been like close to 30 years, 20 something, 30 years. Okay, what's so cool about Ajax is he used the existing standard to exchange data with a server, updating part of a web page. Okay, part of a web page. Look at that. So that was the main difference between Ajax and PHP. So for example, if you look at the examples we did, for example, the example 3, if you still remember when we try to key in something, the URL actually shows one page, e.g. 003 input if you look at the URL, and then if you key in the stuff and you submit, when you submit, the information is submitted to the next page to make an update. Okay, so actually there are two pages involved. Although the user do not really notice the change, it's actually two pages. Okay, sometimes you only want to update part of a page. For example, in Wikipedia, when you want to type in to search for, say, Spain, S, P, right? The drop-down list change. The rest of the page did not change. Okay, so to do that, you cannot send the information to the next page. You must update part of this page. To do that, you need Ajax. And Ajax, if you look at the explanation in Wikipedia, they also say that use various web technologies on the client side to create asynchronous web applications. Okay, you still can send and retrieve data from a server in the background without changing the display. So that is pretty cool. All right, so what we are going to do here is, and Ajax or similar technologies can be used to create a lot of other websites. For example, if you look at things like, say Google Map, right? There's a pretty Google Maps a good example, or YouTube. So if you go to Google Map, search for Google Map, and you're searching for something, obviously the map didn't change. But let's say you want to look for Disney World. When you type D, returns change. You know, this part didn't change, but this part changed. So Ajax can be used to achieve the count effects. Another thing we can use Ajax for is, let's say you only want to change this part of a website, or very small part, without changing this part of a web page, without changing the whole of the web page. You can use Ajax. Okay, so let's do that. All right, so we are going to do example 3 here, very simple example. So in example 3, you can key in something, and then part of the thing change. Okay, part of the page change. So we're going to do that, and then we're in this example, I'm going to force everybody to type in the whole Ajax declaration, which is a pretty old declaration because it came about in 1999. It has been around for a long time, but it's still very valid in today's world. Okay. All right. So let's do that. Before we do that, of course, we want to start our XM, start your Apache, and start your MySQL. Okay. And we are going to start our, I'm going to right click, left click, File Explorer. And then after you open up your File Explorer, go to your C drive, temp, my PHP. We are going to create a new folder called ajax. Okay, and we are going to put all the examples there. And when we're doing that, we are going to make use of some of our other files. Okay. All right, the first file we are going to do is we are going to do, okay, I shouldn't delete that. Oops, sorry about that. Click the wrong thing. All right, the first thing I want to do is I want to create a file called eg003.htm. What this file does is going to get the information from another file, and that file is going to be called eg003time.php. Basically, it's a very simple file, just generate the time. And in this eg003.htm, the time file is going to update part of this page. Not everything, but part of this page. So let's create this file first, eg003 time. Okay, it's a very simple file. So come over here. All right, let me close my tabs, Ajax tab. I don't need that anymore. Make this smaller. Okay, go to Ajax subfolder, and we are going to create a new text document. Right click, new text document called eg003 underscore time. Change the extension to PHP. Are you sure? Yes. And then open this in Notepad++. Right click. Or you can just, if you use it often, it will be the first one. Or just come over here, right click, edit with Notepad++. I'm going to create a very simple PHP file for demonstration. In this file, we are just going to output a time. Okay. And to output a time, you know the, I think I can just do this echo. Okay, time. So let's run this. And we have our URL. Open a new tab in Firefox. Control V to paste, Control C to copy, Control V to paste. Ajax EG003 time, you get the current time. If you reload, the time will change. I didn't set time zone, so the time is not the time of Chicago, but it's okay. Just a time, right? And then the next thing I want to do is I want to create this and then update part of the page when the button is clicked. And to do that, you need to create Ajax. And Ajax, of course, have a full name. Okay. And it's not a programming language. Okay, technically it's JavaScript and HTML. Okay, and JavaScript is very case sensitive. Just remember that when you do Ajax. Okay, and you should have known all this before we even tried this. Okay. All right, and we are going to create example 003 and realize it's a HTML file. It's not even a PHP file. To do that, I can actually copy one of my files that I did previously. Okay, and to copy that file, I'm going to go to my c10 myPHP eg001.htm, which is the only HTML file I have. I'm going to right-click copy, go back to Ajax and right-click paste, and rename this file as eg003.htm. Since we are in the Ajax folder, it doesn't really matter. Right-click here, open this in Notepad++, and we have the doc type. We have the language title eg003 Ajax, and in the body okay, in the body we're going to do some work. Delete this, Control S to save, come back here, go back, reload, look at the new file. Obviously it's empty, but there's a title called eg003 Ajax. So we are all good. So the first thing we want to do is I want to create a form, and inside the form I'm going to create a title and two text boxes. Okay. So we're going to create a very simple form. Give you a name so that we can refer to it. And it's case sensitive. And in the form, we are going to put Ajax. We're going to do Ajax using key press on key press method. For those who did JavaScript, you know that this is event handler. Okay, and we are going to create two text boxes. Okay, so it's a text box. All right, before I do that, it's a text box, so the type is text. And second one, I'm just going to copy this, Control C, come over here, Control V. Okay, and we are going to give them names. They has to be unique because we are going to refer them later, username. And this one is time. Okay, Control S to save, see what we have. Reload. So we have Ajax using on key press event. We have the name, we have the price. Okay, we have the time, I'm sorry. We have the time. All right, what I want to do is I want to key in things in the name, but instead of uploading the whole page, updating the whole page, I just want this part to show the time. Okay, and using so far for what we learned from PHP, we cannot do that, but with Ajax we can. I just want to show the URL. All right, in order to do that, you have to use event handler and use a JavaScript function. Okay, so we are going to write a simple JavaScript function. You can put a JavaScript function in the head, or you can put it in the body. Both are fine. In this example, we're just going to put it in the body. And a very simple JavaScript function called time function. It's case sensitive, so be careful of the uppercase and lowercase you use. And in a time function, we are just going to do alert, which is JavaScript as well for testing, and say hello. JavaScript 101, we are going to call this function here using on key press event. Okay, on key press event, call the function, and I'm just going to type this. Sorry, I'm just going to Control C this and Control V, semicolon, reload. Now when I type something, every time I type something, you get a hello. Okay, which is not exactly what we want. We type something, we want the time shows here. All right, in order to do that, we have to call this file, which is sitting in the server at the same location, almost the same location. Okay. All right, to do that, we need to I'm going to comment out this, or else they will keep saying hello. We are going to create a variable called ajax request. Again, it's case sensitive because it's JavaScript. And then we are going to do a try catch statement. JavaScript again. In this try catch statement, we are going to create a XML HTTP request object using the variable we have just created. And then if something goes wrong, we need to handle that, but let's assume nothing goes wrong. Okay, before I move on. Okay, before I move on, let me just quickly go Google Ajax W3 schools. So W3 School have some Ajax documentation, which is really interesting if you want to read some diagrams. I'm more interested in the state. Okay, what does the, for example, XML HTTP request object do? We just did that. How do you call a function? Okay, and what are the methods? So one of the methods we are going to use is called, one of the property we are going to use is going to be called onReady state change when something happens, when a function is called, and what are the states. Okay, the documentations are here. All right, so we created the XML HTTP request object, and we're going to use that. If the state is changed, we are going to, it's kind of interesting to declare the function this way. Okay. All right, if the state is changed, we are going to put the time here to what we get from here. Okay. All right, we're going to do that later. So we are going to open a connection. When you open a connection, you have to choose the method. We can use post or get method. We're going to use get method. And the file name we are going to call is obviously this file, which is sitting here. And when the change is true, there's some documentation for that. Okay, there's some documentation to that. True for asynchronous. All right, and then you send. And you send nothing. Okay, you can send information over. We're going to look at that in the next example. Let's say if you send nothing, you try to get the things, open a connection using the get method, send nothing, and get some information back. And that information is going to be put into a location when the state change is complete. When the state change is 4. Two equals. If it's 4, we are going to put the output to my form time value, which is the where the text box shows. Okay. Document.myForm. For those who know document object model from the JavaScript days, DOM model from the JavaScript days, this is how to navigate down from a document. Control S to save and keep your finger crossed. Reload. So now if you type A, B, C, every time you type something, this thing will change. Okay, this is really cool, right? Okay, I'm going to do one more thing. The next thing is I'm going to show instead of on key press, we are going to do on change event handler. In other words, instead of doing every time we press a key, something change, you say every time when I click somewhere else, something change, or I go somewhere else, something change. In this example, I'm going to do something really bad. I'm just going to, because I'm just showing the event handler, I'm not really teaching programming. I'm just going to duplicate everything, which is actually not a good thing to do, but let's just do that. So let's select this, do a Control C to copy, below Control V to paste, and change the name of the function to 2. That technically would allow me to do different things for the names here. Okay, for the username and time, because I have on my form 2. And then instead of on key press, I'm going to do an on change. Okay, a different event handler, and then instead of time function, I'm going to call it time function 2. I'm going to create another time function. Okay. And now we are going to duplicate our, oops, sorry. Before I even go there to do the time function 2, let's retrack. Let's go back. I'm sorry. We are just going too fast. Okay. I realize I haven't finished time function. The first one. So although Ajax works here, but if you want this thing not to crash on some earlier version browsers, for example, Internet Explorer, we need to do some things, okay? So let's say somebody uses Internet Explorer, which is really old browser, nobody's going to use anymore. Since I'm teaching it, I'm just going to go through that, okay? Nobody's using that anymore. Technically, you can throw it away, but let's say you want to cater for some other situations. You can put another try catch. Okay, and so this is how to declare the same thing in Internet Explorer. Okay, Control S to save and reload. Sorry, I'm not working on this yet, but let's. So this time function still works, but if and the earlier version of Internet Explorer actually have other ways of doing things. Microsoft keep changing their way of doing things. So let's try another try catch here. Of course, your chance of this kind of thing happening to you is really, really slim. Really slim. Okay, and if all that doesn't work, you should just let the user know that. That's not going to work, your browser broke. Okay. You realize that all this try catch statement is just to make sure that this thing works. Okay, for the I'm only going to make you type this once. In the future examples, we're just going to copy and paste here, reload. Okay, now this thing works. Now let's go back to our time function 2. Okay, we're going to write a function called time function 2 using onChange for this form. So I'm really lazy here. I'm just going to copy the time function. There are better ways to do this, but I'm just going to copy that, Control C, Control V, and change the name of the second function to time function 2. Okay. And in this part is exactly the same. And I'm going to just uncheck this to make sure it works. Reload. Okay, and you type something. Oops. It doesn't work. Something is wrong. Oh, it works. It's just slow. Oh, it's onChange. So it's onChange event. You see, I forgot it's onChange. So it won't work when you type, but since it's onChange event, when you do something like A, B, C, and click something else, they will show hello. Okay, and they change the time in the first one, which is not what you want to do. Okay, so let's uncheck the alert. And instead of changing the first one, I'm going to change the second one. Of course, you say, hey, I just want to do my form 2. That will work. Right? Yes, that's correct. So document, my form 2, time and value, that is going to work. Control S to save. The send and get is the same. Reload. Now, if you press, nothing happened. But if you click somewhere else, click, and this thing will change. Nothing happened. Click somewhere else, this thing will change. Okay. All right. My video is getting way too long. I finish. I can close this, and I can close this. So I finished creating an ajax, basically an ajax XML HTTP request object, and update part of the page without reloading the whole page using technically HTML and JavaScript. Okay, but we still need server side, so we load the information from the server. All right. Okay, so that is a good place to stop. But in the next video, we are going to look at how to connect to a database, show a database error, okay, and change part of the web page. Okay. All right, that's a good place to stop. Thanks for watching. See you soon. Bye.